Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Rodney, and I'm back, and I wanted to go ahead and give my review on Real, not Real, girl. I got so much stuff in my head that I want to talk about. Not the Real Housewives of Atlanta, not Married to Medicine, girl, and not Love and Marriage DC. Girl, what are we talking about? Love and Marriage Huntsville. I don't know why I just can't look down at my notes. The Love and Marriage Huntsville, that's what we're talking about. Girl, I got some stuff that I want to say. I'm gonna shake the table a little bit. We're gonna get into some mess today, because I feel like I have now clocked and figured out this this situation between men and women. And ladies, I'm here to tell you that y'all are definitely getting the short end of the stick. Yeah, when I was watching Kimmy and Maurice, I was like, ooh, that's what it is. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. All right. So let's start. We'll start out with the first what 20 minutes wasn't really anything. Um, they're basically calling out Lewis and Tiffany for not really being receptive to Dr. Francis. Let me just say this. In all fairness, we have to be fair, right? In all fairness, I think that it would be difficult for a lot of people to sit amongst their friend group, their peers, and be called out by a professional, right? Especially when you're being called out for low-key being fake, right? So I get that Tiffany and Lewis probably were like, whoa, 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 girl, right? Because again, anyone could get in their feelings. Especially, it's one thing for somebody to call you out, for somebody to call you out in private, but honey, he calling you out in front of everybody. And those two cameramen over there, them two white men over there, my hands ashy. Those two white men over there with those cameras, so everybody get to see this professional, this man who's old enough to be, girl, probably y'all grandfather, okay? This man who has expertise, this man who's a professional is calling y'all out in front of everybody. So I can get how Tiffany and Lewis could be caught off guard and feel some type of way, especially when you take an account too. Girl, I don't know, I feel something in my spirit tells me that when Lewis and Tiffany first came onto this show, somebody told Tiffany and Lewis that they were going to come on as the know it all couple, and I think they were in for a rude awakening when Dr. Francis got a hold to them. Because we have to be honest, since Tiffany and Lewis have came onto the show, they do come across as though they are the relationship gurus. And in all fairness, I have to say this, from what I can remember, I could be wrong, I don't think any other couple really comes across on the show. I don't think any other couple has come across the way that Lewis and Tiffany comes across. You know, as the relationship gurus, and I can tell y'all about y'all situation, but can't nobody tell me about mine, right? Anyways, girl. So, anyways, Marceau is up the next day. Girl, can I say something? Everybody cooked differently. Everybody got their own way of cooking. Everybody got their own recipes that they follow. But I ain't never seen nobody stir no bacon. Girl, was Marceau stirring? I said, girl, what is she doing? Girl, I said, girl, is he stirring the bacon? Girl, now, it's like he was stirring the bacon and then he put it in a pan. Now, I will say, I used to work at a restaurant back in the day, and we used to always cook bacon in the oven, girl. We would have these big pans, and girl, we would just put slices of bacon on the pan and put it in the oven, girl. The best bacon you'll ever taste, girl. Put bacon in the oven and see how good it tastes. So that didn't really bother me, but what bothered me was when I saw him with girl pretty much having a bacon piled up on top of each other. I guess it didn't matter because did I feel like he probably realized he was cooking it wrong, so he threw it in the oven. Girl, anyway, child. At least he tried, girl. Whatever. Um, Lewis basically apologizes to the Scotts. I guess now he understands how it feels for someone to come in and I guess not to really know your marriage and to speak upon your marriage. Can we say something, girl? While you cannot break down somebody's life within a few minutes of meeting them, girl, we're not gonna sit here and act like Dr. Francis probably ain't watched the show. Okay? So, girl, he's probably watched the show. He's probably saw how y'all moved, right? And now he gets to see it face to face. So, girl, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, girl, that Tiffany and Lewis, girl, I don't think that Tiffany and Lewis, are a complete mess. But, girl, y'all not giving relationship guru like y'all think y'all giving. I didn't like the fact that Tiffany and Lewis did not wear the shirts. I don't know why that bothered me. It did bother me, but y'all know I got a soft spot for Dr. Francis. Dr. Francis told me to put the shirt on, baby. I would have put the shirt on and probably tied a knot in the back. No, I'm just okay. Dr. Francis said put the shirt on. Okay. But girl, I didn't like the fact that they didn't wear the shirts. I felt like that was their way of bucking back at Dr. Francis. Everybody had on their like refueling marriage shirts or something like that, girl. I forgot what it said. But everybody had on their shirts except for Lewis and Tiffany. I felt like that was their way of taking a stance as a couple. We stand united. We're not putting on those shirts. Like, girl. Lewis doesn't like to be called out, period. That's what it really comes down to. Lewis or Tiffany they don't like to be called out. But I do want to say this. I do want to say this, though. Marceau and Maurice got some nerve. A lot of nerve. Because Marceau says, I don't think that you value him as a professional. Neither do you. Marceau, do you forget the stuff that you say? Quiet as it's kept. Girl, your wife had to lie to you in order for you to even come on the trip. Because she knows that you don't value Dr. Francis as a professional. And didn't you tell us last year that Dr. Francis thought like a woman? So do you value Dr. Francis as a professional? While I do understand that there should be some level of respect for Dr. Francis, right? Because one, this man has a level of expertise in this field that y'all don't have. He's a professional in this field. I mean, girl, quiet as it's kept, he's lived long enough and it's probably experienced enough to know. And then when you add in his credentials, right? But at the end of the day, it really don't matter if you buck at Dr. Francis like Lewis was low-key doing, or if you sit there and try and be respectful, but don't give a damn about what Dr. Francis says at the end of the day. I'm not saying that, girl, just because Dr. Francis says something, that means that it's automatically the gospel, and that, girl, you should take those, take whatever he said and make those changes in your relationship. Because if you don't think what he says will work for your relationship, then, girl, you don't think it works for your relationship. But Marceau or Maurice being, I guess, somewhat more respectful than what Lewis is being, at the end of the day, it really don't matter because, girl, Marceau, you not listening to Dr. Francis. You might sit there and entertain Dr. Francis like, okay, right. and have a conversation. But girl, once you walk out the room, once Dr. Francis walks out the room, you're like, oh, girl, fuck that nigga. You see what I'm saying? And I feel like that's what Maurice does too. He's going to have some type of level of respect for Dr. Francis, but at the end of the day, girl, I don't think he's taking anything that Dr. Francis says into consideration. Oh, fuck that nigga. He don't know shit. So, y'all ain't no different than Lewis. In my book. Lewis just outright disrespectful with his. Y'all gonna disrespect Dr. Francis when he walk out the room. Lewis says that he has wisdom. Lewis, you don't have more wisdom than this man who's a doctor, a professional, has the credentials, is an expert, and old enough to be your granddaddy. Hush. Mel and Marlene, they meet up. Mel and Marlene, their situation is really not that deep. You know, I've said this and I'll say it again. Melody can cut who she wants to cut off, but I do believe Melody is the type of person that if she hears that you said one thing that might not even be that bad, she automatically cuts you off at the drop of a dime. The simple fact that, girl, her and Marlene could sit there and laugh and giggle and kiki, girl, lets me know that, girl, the situation between Marlene and Melody was not that deep to begin with. Yes, Marlene didn't have no business saying what she said, but at the end of the day, girl, it clearly wasn't that deep, right? I do want to say this, though. Marlene gonna continue to defend her lazy son. You can say a lot of things about Melody, but I wouldn't say lazy is one of them. I wouldn't say that lazy is one of them. And we all know who the brains behind the operation was. It wasn't your son, Miss Marlene. Because we see that once Melody jumped ship, honey, the ship started to sink like the Titanic. I don't think it's fair. I'm not saying that just because you pregnant, that automatically means your hands don't work and your feet don't work. And I don't mean that you automatically handicapped, but bitch, you are carrying a whole human being. Okay? I don't think that someone sitting down and resting and, you know, not picking up stuff and not being stressed out makes a pregnant woman lazy. She's pregnant. I think that it's unfair that she called Melody the examples that she gave of Melody basically being lazy was when she was pregnant. I mean, girl, she was pregnant. What did you expect her to do? Right? I think what it is Miss Marlene. I don't know Miss Marlene's story, but I thought I heard Miss Marlene say something like she didn't have that type of help. I think that's what she said, y'all. I could be mistaken. But Ms. Marlene probably doesn't understand Melody being able to kind of rest and kick her feet up while she's, you know, creating life, right? Because Ms. Marlene probably had to do everything by herself. So she probably looking at Melody like, girl, you lazy. But girl, the truth of the matter is you just didn't have no man at the house to help you. You know what I'm saying? Did y'all hear when Melody started talking about when I was in a marriage with Martell, and then y'all heard Miss Marlene said, no, we not talking about that part. Did y'all hear her? I said, see, that's the problem. That's a problem. Miss Marlene gonna protect Martell as much as she can. No, let's talk about that part. Let's talk about it. Since you want to talk about people being lazy, let's talk about it. Okay? Dr. France, they have like a sit down with Dr. Francis and his wife. I think it's called Heart to Heart. Dr. Francis clocked Lewis. He did. He clocked Lewis, and Lewis, you're clockable. Okay? When you really think about it, he asked them, like, has anyone experienced, I think, like a loss or a recent loss or something like that? And Lewis literally started doing what Dr. Francis said the night before. Um, he says that Lewis started basically talking like it's never easy going through a loss. And Dr. Francis basically hit him with, but you're not telling me like how you went through it. Which takes me back to the night before when Dr. Francis said that Lewis doesn't like to personalize things, right? Because he feels as though if he personalizes it, then that's him being vulnerable. That, God, Dr. Francis. Let me tell you one thing about it, two things for sure, three things for certain. Baby, it ain't nobody who can get in my comment section and say a damn thing about Dr. Francis. Y'all want to add motherfuckers to my list. Dr. Francis is on the list. The other ones y'all be trying to add to my list, they not on my list. They all right, but they not on the list. You know, the list is Barack, Russell, Papoose, Prince Harry, Dr. Francis. It was somebody else I added. I forgot who it was. We made this a 6. Who was it? Barack, Russell, Prince Harry, Papoose, Dr. Francis. It was somebody else. And no, it was not no Chris Samuel, so don't get in my comment section about Chris, because that was definitely not it. And no, it's not JJ either. Okay? I forgot who it was. I remember, girl. He starts to cry. Can I say something? You know what's so crazy, y'all? It just goes to show, like even when Lewis was in the room with Tiffany and he was crying about, like, it just goes to show, like, you got this big 7'6" tall Negro who wear a 6XL in boxers sitting there crying about his daddy not coming to his baseball games. That's why that's why you know, girl, I don't know. I just feel like, you know, your childhood does not give you an excuse to, you know, be a menace to society at all. But in some cases, you know, not to go back to Real Housewives of Atlanta, Marlo Hampton, but in some cases it kind of can, it shows me, oh girl, I see why they probably cut up and act a fool. Right? We ain't going backwards. Okay, we ain't going to no Real Housewives of Atlanta. Marlene and Martell having a conversation. I don't know why. I feel like every time Martell and Marlene have a conversation, I feel like in my spirit, Martell has told her what she needs to say in the scene. Like when she came down and he was like, oh, what the kids doing? And she was like, oh, I was just helping, I guess the baby learn how to write her name. And he was like, oh, she a handful, ain't she? You're like, what it? I was like, I felt like Marlene was supposed to say something else so Martell could say, oh, she a handful, ain't she? But Miss Marlene messed up the line and said I was helping her spell her name. So it kind of threw Martell off, and he still had to say his line. Like, I feel like that's what's going on with Martell. I feel like he's coaching Miss Marlene on what to say in these scenes. Where I talked about that. So Dr. Francis and what's his name? Marceau and Tisha meet up. Girl, did y'all see when I guess Marceau was trying to make a joke and Dr. Francis said it was gonna be light? Basically, like he wasn't gonna be too heavy, I guess. And Marceau basically was like, you know, you call today not heavy? I mean, you got Lewis out there crying, and Dr. Francis was looking at him like, this nigga. So somebody crying it got heavy to you? So basically, in a nutshell, what it comes down to is, girl, once Marceau and Tisha got on the show, they started having problems in their marriage. what it come down to. When Marceau and what's her face got on the show, they said 3 to 4 years ago they started having issues. What do y'all think happened 3 to 4 years ago? Girl, the inception of Love and Marriage Huntsville happened. Okay? They said that Marcel said that it was some external forces. Honey, they started showing flashbacks of my girl Wanda. I miss Wanda. When is Wanda coming back on my screen? Y'all know I got a love-hate relationship with Miss Wanda. She messy as hell, but girl, when she ain't on my screen, I miss her so much. Girl, when Miss Wanda popped on my TV screen, I just saw that smile. And I said, there she go. There go my girl. There go my girl with her miss ass, okay? Um. Anyways, girl, Tisha started talking about God blessed her with a man. It's okay for her to trust. I mean, girl, listen. God bless you with a man. It's okay for you to trust your man. I mean, girl, I would assume that, girl, if you are in a partnership with somebody, that you would trust them. But that sounds too much like right, okay? Dr. Francis Burt pretty much cuts the conversation short with Marceau and Tisha. I feel like he was like, girl, I'm not supposed to do this with Marceau, not tonight. You know, Marceau starts to say, but he did say for him that I guess if he didn't really take into consideration about what Tisha felt, like he wouldn't have married her. I know he said that's for him, and that's not for everybody, but I just want y'all to know that just because you marry a woman does not mean that you appreciate her, consider what she says. That just means that you are sexually attracted to a woman and you want someone to basically have sex with. Past that, y'all really don't see value in women. That's why you think that once you get with a woman, and women sometimes don't even see value in themselves. That's why they say, girl, you know, men are smarter than women. In my household, my husband is the head of household. You would think that with all of that education that Tisha has, and you would think that from what the streets are allegedly saying, that, girl, a lot of that shit that they got is because Tisha's credit was, girl, up, and it was stuck, and, girl, Marceau's was down here. Girl, right? That how the fuck could anybody come into this situation and think that Marceau is the head of household? Again, you got Tisha with all this education attached to her name, good ass credit, and then here come Marceau. But because Marceau is a man, he's gonna be the head of household. He's gonna be the one that is the protector, the provider. When girl quiet is kept, the real provider is girl Tisha. Let me shut up, child. So just because you with a woman, just because you're married to a woman, doesn't mean that you see her as valuable. It just means that, girl, you wanted somebody to have sex with for the rest of your life, child. Kimmy and Maurice. So they meet up with Dr. Francis, and Maurice believes that Kimmy should have sex with him twice a day because basically that's what he wants. Dr. Francis proceeds to say that Kimmy has a right to dictate whether or not she wants to have sex. Kimmy, don't you think you have the right? Kimmy says, well, no, it's not that he doesn't think that I have the right. He knows that I have the right. No. When you really start to pull back the layers, Maurice really doesn't think that you have the right. Because that's why he's saying that even if you don't want to have sex twice a day, you should still do it. You need to do it because I want to do it. So in actuality, Dr. Francis is absolutely 100% correct. Okay? When Kimmy was talking, and what it sounds like to me is this. Maybe we could have sex twice a day if I didn't have to already have sex with you once, right? Then I have to turn around, cook, clean, meal prep, right? Get prepared for the work week, and all you get to do is lay in the bed and watch TV. Because Maurice feels as though women do this and men do this. Now, I have to say this. This is a scheme that Todd set up to come to y'all with the bullshit. Okay? Whatever Aunt Bertha said. Hold up. That sounded like was that an airplane? I don't know what that was. I think what it is that people love to uphold white supremacy, right? And they love to uphold these ideals that were put in place, again, by white people. White supremacy, girl. And also people like to move in 2022 like it's 1903. So when you hear these men who believe in gender roles, right? A woman is supposed to cook, clean, do all the stuff around the house. A man is supposed to work and I guess take care of the, repairs around the house. That really doesn't fly in 2022 because most women are working in 2022. Just like men. And also in 2022, there are not a lot of people who are just living in homes where repairs have to be done every day, all day. There are some, I know, right? There are some. But when you think about what a woman has to do versus what a man has to do, girl, the men actually get the easier, they get the best deal. Because again, how often do you think a man is running around a house fixing a roof, fixing broken pipes, fixing this, fixing that? It's probably not a lot. Think about it. How often do you think a woman, if y'all are playing into the gender roles, has to cook, has to clean, has to do laundry, has to take care of the kids, right? And then this bitch is still working 40 plus hours a week. So who do you think really is getting the short end of the stick? Because again, a lot of these niggas ain't just living. Y'all, these men are not climbing on roofs in 2022 and fixing the roof. They not going inside the walls fixing the, girl, either if it's something that's happening to the house, girl, they might try to watch a YouTube video. Girl, half of these niggas can't even change the oil in their car. They taking it to the shop right along with me and the other bitches, okay? Y'all get what I'm trying to say? But also, Kimmy, girl, you knew the nigga who you was with before you married him. I remember Kimmy said this season 1. And I looked at Kimmy like, girl, that's why we gotta stop trying to tell people who they married to. Like we tried to tell Monique who she married, who Chris Samuels is. Remember Kimmy told us that Maurice ain't no different than Marceau? Was that season 1, season 2? She said that. She said that. I was like, no, girl, they not the same. Girl, please. They just the same. Maurice just ain't in your face like Marceau in your face with his misogyny and sexist ways. And I have another thing too I want to say. If Maurice believes in gender roles and believes that a woman's job is to do this and a man's job is to do this, then I want to know, what is he teaching his son? Because Maurice had a fit for his son to come and move in with him. So if his son is living with him, and if Maurice believes that the world should operate on women do this and men do this, and Kimmy is up doing all the work while Maurice big ass is lying in the bed watching football, then what is he teaching his son? That's why I always question y'all now about when y'all say that it's important for a man to be in the house. Is it, or is it important for a child to be raised in a two-parent household regardless of gender? Because it sounds like to me someone would probably do better growing up in a household with 2 or 3 Kimmys versus a Maurice and a Kimmy, or 2 or 3 Maurices. Who do you think would have a better chance of bringing out the best kids? A household that has a Maurice, a Martell, and a Marceau, or a household that has a Kimmy, a Melody, and a Tisha? I'm going to go with this side. I'm going to go with the women. They'll probably turn out the best they'll probably put out the best human beings into this world. So I just want to know, what exactly is Maurice teaching his son about being a man? Because that's the whole thing, right? Y'all want a man can only teach a boy how to be a man. Well, I want to know, what is he teaching his son? And what does being a man consist of? Because it sounds like all you do is lay on your ass and watch TV while Kimmy run around the house and girl pretty much is a mattress and a mule. It sounds like after you climb off top of her, girl, you turn around, girl, might wipe off, girl, and then you turn a baseball game on or the football game. And Kimmy got to run around a meal prep, girl, clean, do laundry, get ready for the work week. So what is Maurice teaching his son? These niggas is not fixing shit and climbing on top of houses like it's 1903. They're not. So again, a woman who subscribes to those gender roles, girl, you getting the short end of the stick, because we all know, and I know this ain't even got no kids, especially when you have a family and don't have a large family, sweetie, you would probably have to do laundry every day. And then these niggas want y'all to cook. Do y'all know in real life, do y'all know how excessive that is? Do y'all realize that in order to cook a homemade meal, bitch, you could literally be in the kitchen for hours at a time. So you want this woman to go in the kitchen, girl, make you homemade mashed potatoes, fried chicken. You want, girl, homemade sweet potato, candy yams. So you want her in this kitchen. You want her in this kitchen peeling, cooking, frying, seasoning, girl. And what you doing? Sitting in the living room watching TV. Then you want her to wash clothes. It's probably a family of 7. Girl, she gonna be up all day washing clothes. What you doing? Watching TV. Then she has to get the kids prepared for the week. And what you doing? Watching TV. Y'all niggas can't even wash y'all daughter's hair. Sad. And then she also has to get herself prepared because guess what? This bitch got to go to work on Monday morning. Right along with you. It's a scheme. It's a scheme. And depending on what you cook, bitch, you literally, girl, don't try to cook no roast. I mean, girl, you can let a roast sit there, in a crock pot. But y'all get what I'm trying to say? Like, taking care of a home is not an easy task. Especially when you have these men who want these women to cook and clean. And girl, you have kids. Girl, I have seen it, honey. My sister has to vacuum and mop at least 5 times a day. Girl! You could literally have me and Brittany were talking the other day. Matter of fact, she sent me a screenshot. My friend Brittany, she was like, it just makes no sense for me to clean because when I clean, this house get back to looking just how it was before I clean. I said, girl, that's sad, girl. I said, my sister be going through the same thing. So you got kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a lot. So I just want y'all to stop. The moral of the story is I want y'all to stop buying into these gender roles because y'all bitches is getting the short end of the stick. I could probably wrap my head around it a little bit if these niggas was really out here fixing shit and building shit in 2022, but they're not. They're not. These niggas they might look on YouTube for a little bit to see if they can fix it. Other than that, they calling somebody to the house to fix it. Ain't shit breaking around nobody's house. Yes, I understand some people live in trap houses. Oh, girl, some girls, but girl, even then, girl, niggas ain't building and fixing shit like that in 2022. Don't let these niggas fool y'all. If something happened to the roof, you think these niggas climbing on y'all roof in 2022 fixing it? No, girl, they gonna put a bucket underneath the leak, and then hopefully, girl, once y'all get enough money to get it fixed, they're gonna call somebody out to come fix it. If a pipe bursts, girl, you think these niggas they're gonna call somebody out to fix it. While you still in the kitchen, slaving, cooking, sweating, girl, hollering at the kids, and he's sitting in the motherfucking room watching football. Girl, let me go, and I'm done. But Kimmy, that's your man. You know who he was before you got with him. It is what it is, girl, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. Bye, y'all.